For the next 30 minutes, we will talk about my experience and my team experience. And by no means I want to make this like a session of I don't know, selling or this and that. It is a unique experience which we had at a unique moment in history. I think it's not copyable. I think it brings some lessons. Those lessons are specific, but maybe some of them we can as well learn from. So let me start. You will see pictures in this presentation. I like photography too. Either these are my pictures or these are pictures I asked DALL-E in OpenAI to generate for me. So if you see colors and weird stuff, it was done with OpenAI. So let me start 23rd of February. Why I didn't put the month? Because for me 23rd is a special day. It was yet a day. It was a good weather. I remember the news, everybody saying there would be war. I was talking to the ambassador of Albania, to the vice ambassador of Austria. I was talking to CEOs, COOs, and all of us, or most of us, believed there would be no war. The first lesson for me, you cherry pick facts which support your hopes. So hope is not a strategy. And that I found myself doing. I know this, and I still did this. And there was 24th. 24th in the morning, as most of us, I'm in IT. And an early call, it's never a good thing. This was a call, 5:30 in the morning. Dima, he's in my team. He was in the car. I could listen it. He said, Enke, did you check the news? I said, Dima, what's up? He said, war started. Pack your things and go to the border. There are huge queues. I packed my things. I put 2 hoodies. I put some other things. I got my camera. And I said, I will come back. Imagine, I was imagining that this will be done in 1 week. And I would go back to my apartment. And I went back to my apartment months later. So I left my camera, and instead of going to the border, I went to my office. And in the corner of my office in Ukraine, who has been in Kyiv recently understands that there is an unbelievable boom of coffee culture. In Kyiv, IT is growing, and where IT is growing, coffee grows. It's like, industry which is powered by coffee. That's how we are. And you see these small shops with their own brews, and they do their own michelas. 6:30, these guys were working. There was sirens on the way. Look at their faces. I made very few pictures a day from my phone. And they know me. I go in. They start preparing my double espresso. I don't talk. The coffee usually is like 50 hryvnia. I give 200 hryvnia, and they said, guys, keep the rest. This is by far the best coffee I had in the wartime. We were laughing. You can imagine. So the human humor still worked. Still worked. And that's a lesson which we had throughout. So we didn't feel sorry, we didn't feel pity, we didn't feel that. It was not there. We felt anger, we felt focus, we felt other things, we felt tired, but we never felt helpless as a team. And humor played a big role into that. So what happened? I call it from job to mission because you have to picture this. I mean, war starts. All my team was all over the place. In shelters, in other cities. Some of them were stuck in Egypt for holidays. We couldn't connect to nobody. Day before, a massive cyber attack started. So we had one of the largest cyber attacks in Ukraine history. Massive. So where to start? You do calls, you talk to people, who is available, who is not available. You start to grasp to few people which have their laptops with them, which can start working. How do you motivate them? Do they care about their salary? Do they care about their, I don't know, because you are the boss? Nobody gives a shit you are the boss. I'm sorry for my French in such a day. And the way we started to communicate is to make them realize that the job of a bank is the blood system of the society. Having access to cash is access to food, to petrol, access to shelter, access to hotels in Bratislava when family is out. So my team understood why we do this. And I connect to the morning speech, which it was a brilliant one. And I do believe that context is far more powerful than alignment. Context, it's about why we do what we do. We cut out a part of our organization. We cut it out. We said, we need who we need. So at this 24th morning, I called Alexander. Alexander is my CEO, a person which I deeply respect. He's a gentleman with an experience as a central banker, IMF. He worked all over the place. He is a lighthouse in ethics. And I called him and I said, Alexander, we might not sustain. What is your biggest worry, Enkelejd? 2. Ransomware and my cybersecurity and losing access to my 2 data centers. How? If our data centers are bombed, if our electricity is bombed, if the network is bombed, we are out. What should we do? We should go to cloud. It took 10 minutes. How much could it cost? Between 5 to 10 million euros. How we start? By sorting out the biggest risk first, ransomware, as a backup. How do we move? Backups, then system by system. It took us 3 months to move the entire bank. We are the biggest international bank in the market. In meantime, we did other innovation, like cash in the point of sale, cash in supermarkets. We were able to make a card which is called the Doomsday Card. What was the Doomsday Card? We said, if we are bombed any day, how to keep people with access to cash? We worked with a Slovakian bank, with our group. We launched the card in 5 days. How we did that? We got lucky. Sometimes getting lucky helps. They were having this gift card program. We transferred $70+ million to their account. They pre-generated all 1 million cards. We sent these card numbers to our customers. They were not available. They said, if the worst comes to the worst, we will activate these cards for you. Our plan was that when the generator kicks in, so if they shoot our power out, then we activate the card, and even if we are completely black, our customers have access to cash. So this was not about technology. This was not about super duper innovation. This was about getting stuff done. Just to set the context. So that is the context. So a few words who we are. So we moved the bank to the cloud, and we are not a pretty bank, by no means. We are a big legacy bank with many layers. We have our museum. Vitaly is my head of core banking system. Vitaly is a world champion in raising dogs. Core banking system was the first systems in the cloud. COBOL, Java, you name it. We have all of the animals, all. One lesson of this journey: nothing is impossible. It's just moving systems left to right. We are not launching rockets. We only do mathematics in banks. So that's how it worked. That's where we are today. I'll pause here a minute if you have a question for me before I go with how we did this and what were key principles of the journey. Good. I like when there's no questions. Now, I'm telling this story today. I'm here, and thank you for the invitation. I'm here because we made it, and the world is full of stories of people who made it. And I was thinking about this story about these priests in the middle of the storm, in the Middle Age, and then the huge storm hits. What they do? They use the technology they are better at. They pray. And the storm stops. And they write the story. They say, yeah, praying works. Let's write a blog post in Medium. Awesome. I don't want to be the guy which writes a blog post that praying works. It's more complicated than that. Because there are other boats that day, boats which sink, and those boats are in the bottom of the ocean. and nobody writes from the bottom of the ocean. So we have a positive bias because we tell stories from the point of view of the one which survived. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. There was a component of luck as well, because we could be out any day. And this brings me to one of the key things, I think, in any transformation. Even when I was in Croatia or in Ukraine or before, there is one element which is old school risk management. Risk management is the key component of a successful transformation, in my opinion. Decision about technology, what you do, how fast you go. I read this beautiful book about, it's called Safe Haven. It's an investor, it's called Spitznager. He's a very famous investor. He says, never ever play Russian roulette. Russian roulette is any kind of business game or business decision when one single event brings you out of business. During our journey in the cloud transformation, our backlog, we started to eliminate our Russian roulettes first. Ransomware, network, data, ability to restore, backups. Every day, my risk profile dropped. The safer I got, the faster we went. So I think this is a key one. We are brave, we go fast, but we don't play Russian roulette. Another point which we learned. So when the systems crumbles down, and it crumbled like nothing was left, you are alone. Your authority matters nothing. Your organization doesn't exist. What still exists is the human connection, what Vedrana said. This connection which we built 3 years ago. People started to care to each other. My head of security invited me to stay at his home. People started to care about each other. In 2 weeks, the system builds back. In 2 weeks, it's enough for a new system to grow some legs. New structures form. Now, a year and some later, I call it the bureaucracy comes back. It's even more dangerous because the psychology adopted. I call it the empire strikes back. So human connections are way more powerful than any organizational structure, that any management, alignment, and strategy built on the high level. Trust of the teams, decentralized work, and brings me to the next point. What helped us as well, before the war, we were in the middle of a transformation. Ukraine was a market in a fast disruption phase. We had a new entrant in the market, our version of Mono. They took millions of customers very fast. We had to accelerate. I hired in 1 year roughly 200, in a year and a half, got almost 300 engineers. We changed the organizational structure completely. So where the war hit, we had the brain power to execute. And the model of organization which we put in place was inspired by Octopus. Octopus is the architecture of brain, the most advanced architecture of brain, different than ours, a distributed one. 20% in the center and 80% in the arms. So we implemented in Ukraine an organization based on a domain model which worked on a distributed way. We call it teams of teams, and I put this quote: the full idea of decentralization is the fact that it is way more difficult to micro bullshit than to micro bullshit than to macro bullshit. So on the team level, things are real. The higher you go, the less real they get. So my organization works like this. We are in the center, we define standards. I have 10 domains, security is one of them. Security works as an engineering, and the key learning of this exercise was security is core to the transformation. Going next. When you had a distributed setup, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to create a shared context or a shared language. I think Kelsey today mentioned the shared language. And I was inspired by how grandmasters built cathedrals before. You know, when a grandmaster got a task, let's say the Pope called you and said, can you please build me a cathedral? You know it would last roughly 200 years as a project. It's a 200 years project, plus minus. You know as a fact you will not be alive when it's done. you know that there are hundreds of other masters working at the same time. There is a fun fact about cathedrals. There is not a single window the same, not a single door the same. But they live for thousands of years, and then when you look them, it looks like done by one person. How do they manage this? They build context and a shared building language. So a distributed organization to function requires a shared context and shared building purpose, context, and building language. I asked Dali as well to illustrate it for me. Same for us, how we build APIs, how we build data streaming, how we codify, what is microservice, because everybody says we use microservice. What is that? All teams establish common platforms. These platforms are shared, domains deliver in a distributed way. That's how our banks looks like. There are platforms, security cloud, channels, micro frontends, APIs, data platform. There are delivery domains. And I do not have a head of development. I do not have a head of operations. People reporting to me, my VPs are head of loans, head of payments, head of cards. So IT is divided by the business domains. By doing that, we reduce the friction to business. Of course, you solve one problem, you create another problem, but it helped us achieve what we achieved. It's you build it, you run it, every domain manages its own services, its own systems, and its own customers. It's super important. They have nobody to blame, they have nobody to point the finger to. The biggest risk I see companies going to the cloud is building a data center on the cloud. It happened to some of the best banks out there. You give this task to your central infrastructure team. In 2 years, you have a beautiful data center in Amazon. Same processes, same cub, same slow things, only more fancy names, even more complicated. So, which is the best architecture out there? I want to ask a question before I move. Somebody? Mr. Architect?
It's not yet invented.
It's not. Somebody has an idea. Do we have any technology radicals here? No? When I was a kid, I was learning statistics, and we were learning evaluators, like average, median, mode, this and that, and he says, very important. He always did it. He's a very famous statistician. He said, very important, pay attention. We all stand up. He said, I will tell you what is the best evaluator of all. We took the pen. It's like, this is true wisdom. We will sign it down. No? He says, the best of all is the one which is better than anybody else. Really? And that's what I want to say. I do believe that we run transformations because we want to lower the cost of our mistakes. The architecture which costs you less per mistake, which allows you to pivot, which is operatable and simple, is the one which wins. I see it in my market over and over. Companies which have less advanced architectures, but have bigger focus on customer and what they want to achieve, they outperform the market. They make enough money then to hire way smarter people and to fix the architecture. It never works the other way around. Few learnings. It was about the team. It's about clarity. It's about why you do what you do. It's about purpose for millions of people. When we got distracted, when we started to fight with each other, we always reminded each other, guys, we don't do it for us. We do it for millions of people on the street. It's about autonomy. No excuse. No excuse. It's infrastructure, or is this guy in development? No excuse. You build it, you run it, you get it done. I couldn't care less about excuse. Our life was too short to hear excuse. Trust, courage. If you don't play Russian roulette, you can be very brave. So avoid the risk which can kill you, and then go. Care. It's okay to have a bad day. Some of my team didn't feel like. They couldn't touch a keyboard. They burned out. It's okay. They can get the time off. Other people can fit in. And communication. Twice a day, every day. At the beginning, I was writing one email to all IT every single day. We had town halls every single day. Progress, fuck-ups, what's going on, what's good, what help we need. Every day. So, to come to the end, what I've learned. Fear is natural. Fear is our brain telling us we do not have the entire information. But courage is a decision. To take the step, you must take precautions. So I said, if you don't play Russian roulette, then we went. During this transformation, we removed, there was no CIO, CTO, CXO, whatever. We were all doing the job, whatever we could. Sometimes doing the job is not getting involved. For example, I had many people from project office, from this, from that, from marketing. They said, can we help? Can we help? We want to be useful. I said, the biggest help you can give now is please get out of the way. It's okay. It's okay to be honest about it. It will come time for you, and it came. This was before the war. For my birthday, we went to paintball with my team. Even in the darkest moments, we had fun, we had drinks. Kyiv was never a sad place. People smile. It's not a place to pity. It's a place that people live. They have hopes, aspirations. They want to win this war, and they want to build a country after that. So when you say to me, what's next? We intend to build this cathedral, or a modern digital bank, and we want to be one of the conduits of rebuilding the country. Why I'm still in Ukraine? Because if I would move to another place, what I would do? I would work for shareholder value. What the hell is that? No. At least in my current place, I have a chance to play a small role in a big event. So you have to understand this. There's a lot of guilt in that situation, especially for men. Because if you're not in the front fighting, you are constantly thinking, am I doing my part? You know? And the job became a way to keep mental health as well. So for many of my team, it was their fight. So it was not anymore about Raiffeisen, Enkelejd, this, that. No, it was their part. We had fights. We had very hot moments. We did fuck-ups every day. It was not a walk in the park, guys. But it made it, that's what I think, context is under-evaluated. We'd make alignment meetings and strategy and roadmaps. Bullshit. In my opinion. They're anti-patterns.
Applause, please.
Thank you so much.